The number circled on my Medicare summary notice was $312.47. That was my coinsurance, the portion left after Medicare paid its share of a routine lab draw. And I had already called the billing office twice to confirm it was real. If you'd asked anyone at that billing window whether the $312 charge was legal, they would have told you yes, without hesitation. The woman I spoke to was patient, she was polite, and she read me the same line both times. Medicare paid its portion, this is your share, here is where to send the check. She had no idea the federal government had prohibited her employer from sending that bill in the first place. I dated the check. I folded it into the envelope. Then I sat back down at the kitchen table and picked up a packet of papers I'd skimmed 2 weeks earlier and found 3 sentences I had not understood the first time around. There is no money for a billing department in explaining the form that makes your balance disappear. The system works exactly as designed when you pay without asking questions. Nobody in that office called me back to say they had made an error. I had to find it myself. My name is Dale Corbin. I'm 68, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not from the government. I read the forms myself because I had to. Everything here is a starting point for your own calls. Verify the details with the official source before you act on anything. What I found that afternoon was a federal protection called the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program, part of something called the Medicare Savings Programs. If you may qualify for this program, federal law says your doctor, your hospital, and your lab cannot charge you for Medicare's deductibles, coinsurance, or copays. They must accept whatever Medicaid pays as payment in full. I'll show you the exact income test, how to apply through the right office, what to say when you call, and what to do if you have already paid bills you were never legally owed. What nobody knew, including me, was that one of the programs I'll cover today has a funding window that closes every year. The slots run out and they do not reopen until January. I'll cover it last, and I'll tell you exactly how to check before that window shuts. Stay with me, because everything I walk through before that is why the final one matters. The first protection is the QMB billing prohibition itself. The Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program has been written into federal law since 1988. The specific prohibition sits in the statute at 42 U.S.C. Section 1396A, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services published a clear guidance document on it in 2013 and updated it in 2017. That guidance says, in plain language, that any provider enrolled in Medicare is prohibited from billing a QMB enrollee for any Part A or Part B cost sharing, deductibles, coinsurance, and copays. Every one of those is prohibited. The provider must accept whatever the state Medicaid program pays as full and final payment. And no, I'm not making that up. The prohibition holds regardless of how much Medicaid pays, $0 from Medicaid or $50. The result for you is the same either way. The provider cannot send you a bill for the remainder. You'd think someone would have said something. Nobody did. This prohibition applies to doctors, hospitals, outpatient facilities, labs, and any other provider that accepts Medicare assignment. The billing office will not volunteer this information. The Medicare summary notice that arrives every 3 months will not flag it. The only way this protection works for you is if you know it exists and ask the right question when you call. Sitting back down with those papers for another 30 minutes turned out to be the most important decision I made that year. QMB is means tested. Your income must be at or below 100% of the federal poverty level, and there may be a resource limit depending on your state. The primary source for this program is Medicare.gov. Search Medicare Savings Programs, and it will take you directly to the page where you can begin checking eligibility. The second thing to check is the income and resource test, because this is where you find out whether you may be eligible before you spend any time on paperwork. For the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary tier in 2026, the income limit is approximately $1,255 a month for a single person and approximately $1,703 a month for a couple. I want to be clear on this. Those figures are for 2026 only, and they change every year when the federal poverty guidelines are updated. Before you act on any number in this video, verify the current figure at Medicare.gov. I'm giving you the 2026 reference as a starting point. The figures change every year, so verify the current number at Medicare.gov before you act on anything. That's not a typo, by the way. Those limits are higher than you might expect on a fixed income. A Social Security check that feels modest can still fall below that line. Resources matter too, but the rules vary a great deal by state. Some states have eliminated the resource test for Medicare Savings Programs entirely. Others still apply it, but they generally exclude your primary home and one car. Call your state Medicaid office and ask one question. Does your state currently apply a resource test for the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program? That takes 30 seconds and can save you an hour of calculation you may not need to do. If your income is above the QMB line, but still below 135% of the federal poverty level, do not stop here. 2 more tiers may apply to you, and I'll cover both in detail when we reach the 5th protection. Most people never heard about this part, which is why they never check. The income and resource test is the gate. If you are at or below those lines, the next step is the application, and that is where a lot of people stall because they reach for the wrong door first. Third is the application, and which door to knock on. You apply through your state Medicaid office. In some states, Social Security Administration field offices will accept the application and forward it, but the program itself runs through your state. The easiest first call is 1-800-633-4227, which is 1-800-MEDICARE. When they answer, tell them you want to apply for the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Medicare Savings Program. Ask whether you should apply through your state Medicaid office or through a Social Security field office, and ask for the direct number for your state. That routes you to the right door. Before you call, gather what you will need: your Medicare card, a recent bank or credit union statement, your most recent Social Security benefit letter, any pension or income statements, a government-issued photo ID, and proof of your current address, such as a utility bill. Having all of that in front of you can close the application in one conversation instead of 2 callbacks. Your state Medicaid office has 30 days to process a complete application once they receive it. If you wait until a disputed bill is already at a collections agency and then apply, the clock has been running against you the whole time. Apply before the billing gets complicated. When you reach your state Medicaid office, you can say this: I'd like to apply for the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Medicare Savings Program. Can you tell me what documents you need from me, what the current income limit is for my state, and approximately how long processing takes? One limitation to know about: there can be a gap between when you apply and when enrollment is confirmed. During that window, keep copies of every bill you receive. If a provider sends you a bill for Part A or Part B cost sharing while your application is pending, write down the date. Some states allow retroactive coverage back to the month you applied. Ask the Medicaid office directly. Does your state provide retroactive QMB enrollment coverage from the date of application? If this is the kind of thing you find useful, hit subscribe. I put out a new video every week on the forms, programs, and protections they never mail you. And drop a comment telling me which bill is hurting you most. I read every one. Enter your state health insurance assistance program, SHIP for short. Every state has one, and the counselors are trained volunteers who work with Medicare beneficiaries at no charge. They know exactly how your state Medicaid office processes these applications, whether there is a local intake office you can walk into, and, critically, whether QI slots are still available in your state before the annual funding runs out. Find your local SHIP counselor at shiphelp.org. Let me say that again, shiphelp.org. That call costs nothing, and SHIP counselors have no product to sell and no commission to earn. Fourth, and this one matters if you have already been paying bills you should not have owed. Everything the billing system counts on is that you will look at that balance, assume it is correct, and mail the check. That assumption breaks the moment you know what your Medicare Summary Notice is actually for. The Medicare Summary Notice, the MSN, is the document Medicare mails to Part A and Part B enrollees every 3 months. It lists every claim processed during that period, showing what the provider charged, what Medicare paid, and any remaining amount. If you are a QMB enrollee and your MSN shows a balance being billed to you for Part A or Part B deductibles, coinsurance, or copays, that is a bill the provider was prohibited from sending. If you're wondering how that's even legal, so is everyone else. The billing prohibition has been federal law since 1988. Providers who repeatedly bill QMB enrollees can face sanctions from CMS. You can search CMS QMB billing on cms.gov and read the guidance yourself. The document is public. When you find one of these bills, call 1-800-633-4227. Tell the representative this: I am a QMB enrollee. I received a bill for Medicare Part A or Part B cost sharing from a provider. I believe this violates the QMB billing prohibition under federal law. I want to file a complaint and understand my options for getting reimbursed for amounts I've already paid. Write down the date, the name of the representative, and the complaint confirmation number. Then call your state Medicaid office and make the same report there. Your state Medicaid agency has separate authority to enforce the prohibition against providers in their network. Getting a reimbursement takes time and it takes documentation. You need the bill, the corresponding Medicare Summary Notice showing the same claim, and the dates you called to dispute it. Keep copies of everything that arrives from the day your application goes in. Everything was already in place: the law, the CMS guidance, the complaint process. All of it had been there since 2013. I just didn't know what that paperwork was building toward until I finally sat down and read it. That was only round one, because even after you get the billing corrected, there are 2 more tiers above QMB that cover the Part B premium directly, and one of them has a clock running right now. Fifth is where the urgency comes in. And this is the payoff for what I told you at the start of this video. This wasn't just about my $312 lab bill anymore. The Medicare Savings Programs have 3 tiers that go above QMB, and the top 2 cover the Part B premium directly. On a fixed income, the monthly premium is a line that hits every single month. Here is how the 3 tiers line up by income. All figures are for 2026. All of them should be verified at medicare.gov before you rely on them. QMB, which we have covered, applies at or below 100% of the federal poverty level, approximately $1,255 a month for a single person. It covers deductibles, coinsurance, and copays. SLMB, the Specified Low-Income Medicare Beneficiary Program, applies from 100 to 120% of the federal poverty level, approximately $1,506 a month for a single person in 2026. It covers the Part B premium. Verify this figure at Medicare.gov before you rely on it. QI, the Qualifying Individual Program, applies from 120 to 135% of the federal poverty level, approximately $1,695 a month for a single person in 2026. It also covers the Part B premium. Verify at Medicare.gov. The Part B premium changes annually. Check Medicare.gov for the current 2026 figure. Whatever that monthly amount is, multiply it by 12. If SLMB or QI covers that premium for you, that is money that stops leaving your account every single month for every month you remain enrolled. Now here is what the open loop at the start of this video was about. SLMB operates like standard Medicaid. Enrollment is continuous as long as you qualify and your state has funding available. QI is different. Congress funds the QI program annually with a fixed appropriation. States enroll QI applicants on a first-come, first-served basis, and when a state exhausts its annual QI allotment, new enrollments stop. They do not resume until October 1st, the start of the next federal fiscal year. Some states have historically run through their QI funding before the calendar year ends, but QI wasn't done yet, not even close. If you wait and your state runs out of slots before you apply, you pay the Part B premium out of your own pocket for every month between when you became eligible and when enrollment reopens. Those months are gone. That is why I told you at the start to stay with me. Call your SHIP counselor at shiphelp.org or call 1-800-MEDICARE and tell them this. Based on my income, I believe I may qualify for the QI Medicare Savings Program. Can you tell me whether QI funding is still available in my state and what is the fastest way to get my application in? That is the call to make this week before the window closes. Now let me run back through what to check and in what order. First, find out your current QMB status. If you are on Medicare and your income may be at or below 100% of the federal poverty level for 2026, call 1-800-MEDICARE and ask directly whether you are enrolled in the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program. Second, if you are enrolled and you have been receiving bills for Medicare Part A or Part B cost sharing, those bills may have been prohibited. Pull out your Medicare summary notices from the last 12 months and look at every balance shown. If you paid any of those balances, write down the amounts and the dates. Third, if you are not enrolled but may qualify, contact your state Medicaid office or your SHIP counselor at shiphelp.org. Have your income documents ready before you call. Fourth, if you are already enrolled in QMB and paid bills you should not have owed, call 1-800-633-4227 and file a complaint. Document everything. Fifth, if your income falls between 100 and 135% of the federal poverty level, check your eligibility for SLMB or QI before the QI funding runs out in your state. Do not wait for a bill to show up before you act. Apply before you need it. None of this is a trick, and none of it is guaranteed. You may qualify, and you may not. But it costs about 10 minutes to find out where you stand, and the programs themselves are free. Check everything against the official source before you count on it. That is Medicare.gov and your state Medicaid office. Those are the two primary sources. If anything you hear elsewhere conflicts with what the official source says, go with the official source. We are talking about maybe 45 minutes of calls and gathering a few documents. That is the distance between what you are paying now and what the law may already say you are owed. If this helped, subscribe and tell me in the comments which bill is hurting you most. I read every one. If you know one person on Medicare, one widow, one neighbor on a fixed income who has been paying cost-sharing bills without knowing the QMB prohibition exists, send them this video. One conversation can change what they pay for the rest of their life. The Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program has been federal law since 1988. The billing offices know it exists. They just don't lead with it. I'm Dale. I'll see you next week. And while you're here, I put together a video on 3 specific charges they put on my own hospital bill that were never legal to send me in the first place. If today's video got your attention, that one picks up right where this leaves off. Tap it on the end card right now and let's keep going.
Before you go, everything I just walked you through, the form numbers, the offices, the exact words to say on the phone, I wrote all of it down. 3 plain English guides, organized by the form. They are at dalecorbinbenefits.com or scan the code on your screen. I am not a lawyer and I am not from the government. These do not promise you anything. They show you how to check in about 10 minutes before you pay another bill you might not owe.